A massive manhunt underway for a man involved in a multi-county chase. It ended in West Sacramento.
Business is down, in some cases by 50% in Old Town Folsom. So is it for the most obvious reason, construction, or is there some other problem?
And it's just a drill, the emergency event people were preparing for in Sacramento today. Good evening, I'm Chris Riva. KCRA 3 reports at 6 o'clock in high definition starts now.
This is KCRA 3 reports at 6 in high definition, where the news comes first.
It's supposed to be improving a part of Old Folsom, but business owners say there the construction going on right now is crippling their businesses. KCRA 3 Shams is live in Folsom, where we're hearing from some of those business owners tonight. Sharakina?
Yeah, this is potentially the most visible reason, Chris. All of this recession, tough times for business owners everywhere, but they do say they're still trying to drum up ideas on how to get people out here again. Live in Old Town Folsom tonight, I'm Sharakina Shams, KCRA 3 reports.
Sharo, curious to know if anybody mentioned the new bridge that opened up about last September. It used to be all the traffic had to be diverted right through Old Folsom there. Now the new bridge has taken away tons of traffic. Anybody mention that?
Yeah, surprisingly not, Chris. That was something we expected to hear when we came out here today, but business owners didn't bring that up. The two concerns that they did bring up, as you heard there, the marketing and then, of course, the ongoing construction that we've talked about. Their hope, of course, is that in November, when this construction is done, that things will come back bigger and better than they were even before the construction started.
But until that time, a reminder that everybody is still open for business in Old Folsom. All right, Sharakina, we appreciate it. Thank you. So a massive manhunt underway for a man involved in a chase that spanned multiple counties, ending in West Sacramento. It all started at Sutter County in the town of Nicholas. Officers followed the suspect all the way to I-80 in West Sacramento. KCRA 3's Tom Duhane has more on the story.
In West Sacramento, Tom Duhane, KCRA 3 reports.
To Stockton, where police have arrested a seventh person in connection with the beating death of a 14-year-old high school student. Police say the 21-year-old Savan Rang and 6 other people killed Ren Ruse at Pinella Park. 6 other suspects ranging from the ages of 14 to 19 have all been arrested. They are now being charged with murder as an adult. So 2 men killed in a small plane crash in Placer County have now been identified. Placer County Sheriff's officials say that 31-year-old Brian McCullough of Santa Cruz, 21-year-old Gabriel Suarez of Watsonville died in a crash in the mountains near the Immigrant Gap yesterday. Hiker discovered the crash scene late yesterday. The FAA is supposed to be back on the scene today to continue their investigation into the plane crash. So a woman tried to find a parking spot in downtown Sacramento, ended up being a victim of crime. Sacramento police said that a man yesterday was flagging down the woman at Broadway and 13th Street. Now, she was attending a nearby event, and the man that led her into the parking lot she thought was flagging her in for the event. But when the woman got out of the car, police say the individual stole her purse and then ran away. An oil spill in Sacramento, well, at a time when fire departments are strapped to farm resources, volunteers could make a difference in a disaster just like that. KCRA 3's Maeve Fasai showing us how volunteers received a special kind of training in case of an emergency.
The oils come off the freeway.
Training for the worst.
The KCRA 3 Night Team starts now.
Tonight on the Night Team, it is justice versus mercy. A heinous crime demands punishment. But how young is too young to throw away the key?
No one can convince me that just because someone hasn't reached the age of 18 that they don't fully understand or are not completely aware of when they pull out a gun and choose to take a life.
More than 200 people are serving life without parole in California prisons for crimes committed while they were children. Tomorrow, the State Assembly will vote on a bill that could give them a shot at getting out of jail. KCRA 3's Danielle Lee has more on the bill and why the family of one crime victim says it denies them justice.
Just over 2 weeks ago, Kevin Betancourt's nephew Chaz was...
And in Southern California, a company is the latest to recall its eggs over salmonella fears. Find out which brands are now affected. Good evening, I'm Chris Riva. KCRA 3 reports at 5 o'clock in high definition starts now.
This is KCRA 3 reports at 5 in high definition, where the news comes first.
We begin with breaking news. A 3-alarm fire in Modesto right now. Firefighters just getting this fire under control within the last 30 minutes. It happened at a pallet plant at the corner of Blacksburg and Crow's Landing. KCRA 3's Tom Duhane live on the scene with the very latest. Tom?
That's right. This fire has just been put out by a combination of firefighters from Modesto. The plant itself has lost most of its inventory. Reporting live in Modesto, Tom Duhane, KCRA 3 reports.
Now to a story of a Sacramento woman who thought that she found a home on Craigslist. 3 weeks after moving in, the bank now says she's got to get out. The renter paid $2,000 in rent and a deposit, and as KCRA 3 Sharakina Shams reports, the person that she rented from is not returning her calls.
And I gave him the first part of the money, which was right here. And I have no money, nowhere to go.
In Sacramento County, Sharakina Shams, KCRA 3 reports.
Police officials say that catching these type of scammers can be difficult. The City of Sacramento Police Department no longer has funding for a real estate detective, so all of that work is done by the District Attorney's Office. Well, to Southern California, there are more eggs on the recall list. It's a voluntary recall from an Iowa farm with fears of salmonella. Lubersky of Fullerton informed federal officials today that they would recall eggs distributed in California and Nevada. So cartons under the Alta Dena Dairy, Driftwood Dairy, Hidden Villa Ranch, and the Challenge Dairy brands all are impacted and affected. The eggs are from Wright County Egg in Iowa, which recalled 380 million eggs nationwide earlier this week. Health officials are recommending that people throw away or return the recalled eggs. Now, we have information that you need to know about this recall on our website at kcra.com. A lot of information to digest there. All you have to do is click on the As Seen On link. So a gas leak shut down part of the Sacramento Road earlier today. Officials temporarily shutting down Howe Avenue at Hurley Way after a construction crew broke a natural gas line. Gas was blowing toward the roadway, and fire crews worked to keep the ignition sources away until PG&E crews were able to shut off the flow. Commitment 2010 coverage now. The California Republican Party convention is in full swing as we speak in San Diego, and today Senate candidate Carly Fiorina taking the stage. Fiorina urging supporters to oust her opponent Barbara Boxer. Fiorina also proposed political reforms, including term limits in Congress and greater transparency of government spending. Senator Boxer in Los Angeles today as she met with the Japanese-American World War II veterans. They discuss federal legislation to grant them a collective congressional gold medal. They include members of the 442nd Regimental Combat Team and the 100th Infantry Battalion and Military Intelligence Service of the Army. KCRA 3 is going to bring you a debate between the two Senate candidates, Barbara Boxer and Carly Fiorina. That debate is coming up Wednesday, September 1st from 7 to 8. It's the only debate scheduled in that race for the U.S. Senate. We're also going to bring you a couple of debates between Democrat Jerry Brown and Republican Meg Whitman. The first one's going to be live at UC Davis. That will be September 28th. We'll air the second debate on October 12th. It will be moderated by Tom Brokaw. Now to the latest in the Gulf of Mexico. BP is getting ready for another round of delicate work in the oil spill site. Here's a live look at the underwater camera as we speak. BP is submitting a plan to remove the giant blowout preventer. Brian Moore now tells us that federal officials are being very careful to ensure that the work will not allow more oil to leak into the Gulf.
BP has been given the go-ahead to remove the failed blowout surface. It's more than a mile wide and stretches 22 miles. Brian Moore, NBC News.
The giant blowout preventer is what failed after the Deepwater Horizon rig exploded back on April 20th, and that's what allowed the massive leak to begin with. As we turn to Weather Plus now, another cooler than normal day. Boy, it feels like fall outside. Here is a look at Lake Tahoe. You can see a little bit of cloud cover up there. There have been a couple of raindrops in the high country today. Weather Service has issued a red flag warning for the eastern portion of the Sierra. Dry conditions along with high winds and low humidity. That increases fire danger. We're aware of that. So for more on that and the rest of our forecast, here is Britta. It's good to see you on this Saturday evening. And
good to see you too.
What's with this fall-like weather down here?
Unbelievable. I stepped outside my door and was like, is it really August outside?
I know.
It's unbelievable. But you know what? I think folks in the valley actually enjoying it. But that fall-like weather is cool temperatures are going to be sticking around because I think a warm-up is coming back.
All right, Britta, thank you. So a brand new year-round outdoor sports complex has athletes of all ages running on the playing field today, and it's showing promise that Elk Grove could become a destination spot that organizers are certainly hoping for. KCRA 3's May Fasai has the story from Elk Grove. So the park was just completed this summer, and already several local teams have scheduled practices and their seasons at the park. Moving on now, hundreds of people turning out today for the Adobo Festival in Sacramento's William Land You Young girl showed off her singing talents this afternoon, and it couldn't have been a nicer day to celebrate the signature Filipino dish and music. Most Filipino families cook adobo, which is a dish of marinated vegetables with meat or fish served with rice. People waited 6 deep in line at the adobo station. Iran is one step closer to becoming a nuclear power, and Iran started up its first nuclear power plant today, while the United States doesn't see this as a significant threat. And a $50 million Van Gogh painting stolen today from an Egyptian museum. We'll tell you why it didn't get very far.
Closed caption.
A fresh batch of classified U.S. documents. A major milestone for Iran as the country pursues its nuclear program despite UN sanctions. It began loading fuel into its first nuclear power plant. NBC's Tazeen Ahmad has more from London.
Iran has taken a major step towards a close eye on. Tazeen Ahmad, NBC News, London.
About 150,000 Pakistanis forced to move to higher ground today as floodwaters from a freshly swollen river submerged dozens more towns and villages. Officials say the flooding is going to start to recede in the coming days. However, people have been impacted, and they will likely find little when they return home, as it's been so devastating there. Waters have washed away houses, roads, bridges, crops vital to the livelihoods of the individuals living there. And at least 6 million people have been left homeless. 20 million have been impacted overall. And the economic cost is expected to run into the billions of dollars. So a $50 million art heist, a Vincent van Gogh painting, was stolen from an Egyptian museum earlier today. But it didn't get very far. Airport security confiscated the $50 million painting from the Italian couple that took it. The painting goes by 2 titles, Poppy Flowers or Vase with Flowers.